Hello YouTube! Today I'm going to teach you how to use the game Note Alphabet in the program Soft Mozart. Now, just as with all of our games, you can download a free demo at doremifasoft.com. Now, what is the Note Alphabet exactly? Just like the world that we live in, which follows very specific rules such as physics, the musical world follows its own rules, and the one that's at the very basis for everything is how the notes are organized. In order to be able to navigate the musical space, every student, from beginner to super advanced, has to have a perfect understanding of the organization of this world. Now, teachers have all sorts of ways of teaching kids how to do this. For example, does every good boy does fine ring a bell? The only problem with that is while every good boy does fine only goes in one direction, music doesn't always go in one direction alone. Not only that, but once in a while it skips around. Now we came up with the only effective way to learn how to skip around as well as go in all sorts of directions in the musical world without any problems whatsoever. So let's see how that works out. So I'm going to open Note Alphabet, and we have two different versions of this game that you can choose. If you press I for Italian, that opens up the solfeggio names: do, re, mi, fa, sol. The advantage of this version is that children that don't know how to read yet can associate the names of the pictures with the names of the notes. Door for do, rain for re, mirror for mi, farm for fa, and salt for sol. Now if I press A, it switches to the alphabetical version that we're used to. Initially it's vertical so that it's easier to make the connection of the order of the notes. And I'm only using the arrows to move the boxes over. I can also press the space bar to make the box fall faster if I'm absolutely certain that I'm correct. But let's say that perhaps I make an error. I'm told that I made an error, and if I keep messing up, then the color changes and the box starts falling more slowly so that I have more time to think about what I'm doing. As soon as I get it right a couple of times, it resumes. Now, you might be wondering why it switched all of a sudden. Well, that's because in sheet music, the lines go horizontally, not vertically. So this helps the student to make the association that just because it's sideways, the order is still the same. Now you might have noticed that every time that the note hits the right area, we hear a sound. This trains the ear to recognize each note along with each name. There is also a score that is kept here, as well as the time that passes while each note falls. This makes it easy to compare your progress each time you try the game. For example, a student could play this until the number goes to 5 minutes, several times a week, and record their progress to see if they're improving or not. Now I'm going to pause this game, and I'll show you what the final stage of it looks like. So I'm going to turn off this screen so that it doesn't distract us, and pull up a different laptop. Now, as you can see, a picture of Mozart has almost completely been finished now. Ideally, an expert at this game could get the entire picture done before this number reached 15 minutes. Now, here we see that it's not asking for the entire row of notes, but skipping between them. This way, somebody gets the full understanding of the layout of the musical space and the order of the notes. Of course, it's so tricky that sometimes even musicologists have trouble mastering this game at first. So this particular game is especially effective for any student 4 years old or up. It helps them, the youngest, to fine-tune their motor skills as well as their focus, and it helps the oldest to reinforce their understanding of the organization of the musical space. Now, you can read a lot more about this at Do Re Mi Fa Soft, as well as order your copy of Soft Mozart.